The body of Barry John Arthur was found in a recess of this cliff at Dudley near Newcastle last July. Today, the inquest into how he died tried to trace his last movements. Barry's cousin, Sean Reeves, was with Barry on the night before he went missing. They'd gone to the family hotel with friends to listen to a band. About 1 a.m. they left and went to a house in Arana Crescent at Adamstown Heights, where Barry continued drinking heavily and was seen smoking cannabis. Several people noticed he'd gone from the party about 3:30 in the morning. The following day, some of his clothes and boots were found on the veranda of this nearby house. A week later, his body was discovered in the air vent to a disused mine. Sean Reeves told the coroner he believed his cousin had been trying to make his way home to the Lake Macquarie suburb of Blacksmiths. Dr Morogishu, who conducted the post-mortem, told the coroner this was a perplexing case. Neither trauma, disease or a drug overdose was the cause of death. A possible cause of death was that Mr Arthur had died of asphyxiation from having vomited. The inquest will continue tomorrow. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
It's not every day you get the chance to get tips straight from the experts' mouths. So today, when Newcastle Knights step specialist Matthew Johns offered some advice, St Joseph's students were only too eager to listen. Johns and teammate Robbie Ross, just picked in the Australian under-19 squad to take on Great Britain, conduct clinics like this throughout northern New South Wales.
You certainly get out and see a lot of people, and the kids like it because they get out a bit of school, so it's good. By coming up here today, we've seen that Torres got a fair bit of youth and it's very good. They're going to be very competitive, and we'll have to get some of the selectors up here, I'd say.
The school's champion Year 5 and 6 side received some special attention, and the girls joined in.
You get girls, which might be basketballers or netballers, and of course they're specifics on hand-eye coordination and things like that, and they're a lot of fun. The girls like to get involved, but I suppose there's nothing wrong with girls playing rugby league. There's nothing wrong with that as well.
Such a challenge to sporting stereotypes did nothing to dim the footballing frenzy. But the pen did prove mightier than the ball at one point, footy fever momentarily giving way to the fans' fervour for autographs.
Hunters number 4 seed Matthew Clark went shot for shot with Metropolitan East's Robert Curtis. The players tied at the end of the round. But from there it got worse. Number 3 seed Andrew Cranston falling to Greg Bailey on the second last hole. Number 2 seed Ben Turner looked to chance the entire round, but was one hole down after the 18th. State Representative Trent Berry was still out of sorts, going down to Warwick Jews. But better news for the Northwest girls, who maintained their unbeaten run to win the state title 3 rounds to 1. Therese Ritter from Narrabri easily accounted for her Metropolitan North opponent. Tamworth's Rebecca Hayes was in devastating form, this shot on the 18th. Northwest girls are expected to dominate the state team announced tonight. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Plans to change Lake Macquarie's wards from 4 to 3 are supported by the majority of councillors, but not all the ratepayers. A public meeting at Toronto last night criticised the proposed boundaries, in particular enlarging Ward 3.
It's ludicrous to see the size of the ward allocated for this area.
Now extending from YE to Burragul, the area would be expanded to include around another 10,000 residents who fear they won't be adequately represented, an opinion shared by some councillors.
But I feel sure, and I stick to what I said, if we maintain the same ward system and boundaries, I personally feel you'll get better service.
But those supporting the change disagree.
And it's still impossible for all of us, for us to go around to all the meetings that we are requested to attend.
The meeting strongly opposed the changes and voted to ask Council to reconsider the matter. Residents plan to inform Local Government Minister Gary West of their opposition to the proposal. Gymnasts from every high school across the Hunter competed in today's trials at the Gateshead Sporting Complex. Because of their small number, secondary boy gymnasts go directly to the upcoming combined high school titles, not so the girls. With the sport increasing in popularity among girls, around 100 kept their toes pointed, but not necessarily on the ground, as 4 divisions were judged. A favourite to be selected for the team is Belmont High's Stephanie Ali. The 12-year-old came second overall in a state competition in Sydney last weekend. The regional squad will now prepare for the combined high school state championships to be held in Newcastle in September.
David Aviard is overcoming his own disability by helping others. Maybe you've heard his voice on the other end of the NRMA breakdown line, dispatching a road service patrol to a motorist caught in a jam. David, who's 28 and totally blind, has worked with the NRMA for just over a year. His guide dog Quentin always by his side.
That's the best job I ever had, and also the people here are also friendly. They're very supportive.
Highly regarded by his workmates and a popular member of the team, David is also well known around Stockton where he lives. His community spirit brought him to the attention of the local Lions Club, whose members were looking for a real doer to bring new life into the club. David takes over as president at a ceremony tonight.
Once I've achieved it, I think I will think back and say, hey, it's a thing I've done, and president, wow, of the Lions Club. It gives me a great big boost.
As many representative teams from throughout the region did this week, Newcastle's 15 years side held a final training session to iron out any last-minute hitches. This 10-member squad received some additional coaching from a participant of a different sporting code, Knights player Adam Muir. In helping the girls prepare for the big event, Adam spoke about the necessity of teamwork and common sense if injury occurs. Then, with the opportunity for some questions from the floor, some interesting topics surfaced. All players at the state age titles will be keen to impress selectors who'll name a state 15 years talent squad on Monday. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
It's the first time Christians across Australia have taken part in the worldwide event. In Newcastle, an estimated crowd of around 2,000 gathered at the foreshore, making their way down Scott Street to Civic Park. Worshippers from all churches welcomed into the fold.
Because we believe in the Lord and He's coming again.
I just think it's exciting to join with millions of Christians around the world, just marching to say that Jesus is alive.
Can you tell me why you're marching today?
To celebrate Jesus.
We'll march forever. Praise the Lord.
With the march over, the celebrations continued, winding up with a 12-hour prayer vigil.
I think there's actually a real revival and a great interest in religion and in Jesus. We're not religious. We just actually love Jesus.
So that it's based on the belief of competition that I'm with what you're used to, and it's only when you start thinking that you'll begin to change your behaviour and change. You probably made that point that trying to stop the violent confrontation in a big pub brawl.
'Fire units, police and ambulance were called to the half-built house on the corner of Macquarie Road and Prince Street around 10 o'clock this morning. Flames from a blaze, believed to have started in the lower section of the premises, melted the natural gas line, setting the service main on fire.
The main problem was that it could build up in areas where it's confined areas and become an explosive risk.
As the gas spewed into the air, firefighters used special breathing masks. Water was sprayed to keep the confined air circulating. Roadblocks were set up, neighbours warned to stay indoors.
There was a build-up of gas, information from the fire brigade anyway, under the house, and just for their own safety, they advised that they be kept inside until such times as the gas was turned off.
With the leak sealed, the natural gas company was called in to permanently cap the main. According to nearby residents, the house has been left standing in its unfinished state for a number of years. Squatters are believed to frequently use the underneath section. Police are still trying to contact the owner of the premises and determine what started the blaze. Melinda Smith, NBN News. In a world of mass production, Morpeth remains a mecca for those who like their products handmade. For some, the event is a walk down memory lane to an era where the skill of a craftsman played an important role in a small community. Instead of just buying a finished item off the shelf, enthusiasts were able to watch and learn from the experts. The three-day event attracted thousands of craft buyers and enthusiasts. And although they may not make things like they used to, modern technology has helped to make the art of wood turning a little less tiring. It's the fairy tale dreams are made of. Next month, the Queensland Ballet Company will perform Sleeping Beauty in Newcastle, and today the cast was being finalised. Starring on stage with the company will be the characters of Little Red Riding Hood, Rapunzel, Hansel and Gretel, to name a few. These young dancers are all hoping they'll be picked from the dozens that turned out to audition.
When it said stage door, I was really nervous, and we walked in, I looked at everyone and I thought, oh my God, I was really nervous.
For some, it could be the start of a brilliant career.
It's a great experience. You know, they get to work with a professional company, and if they actually want to be a professional dancer themselves, well then, you know, they're heading in the right direction. It's taken a year and a half to organise, months of rehearsals and moments of sheer frustration. But 111 koalas say they're prepared for the big tour ahead.
Excited, yeah, it's really good. Everyone's looking forward to it. Can't wait to get on the plane and stuff. Yeah.
We can't wait to go, I reckon. Yeah, I can't. I want to go. It's going to be very long and tiring.
One of the major highlights during the next 3 weeks will be performing in the famous Calgary Stampede Parade. Last time, the koalas scooped the pool and they're out to prove they're still the best.
I think the koalas are always winners, and we certainly did win in 1989, and we had to come back with the bacon this time.
Accompanying the band will be a team of about 130 parents and chaperones. It's a family affair for Lisa, Katie and Christy McGripplis, who won't feel too homesick. They're taking mum and dad along as well. After the official farewell from civic leaders, it was time to board the 3 buses, destination Sydney's Mascot Airport. It's the 6th overseas trip for the band since it was formed 12 years ago, but that didn't make the final goodbyes any easier. Melinda Smith, NBN News. It's been 14 years since Newcastle and Ubay developed family ties, an arrangement designed to strengthen cultures and economies. Mayor Tadeo Fujita has held office for the past year, his visit to Newcastle this week marking his first trip to Australia. Officially welcoming his counterpart to the city, Lord Mayor John McNaughton was presented with a gift, a gold-plated model of a 14th century Japanese treasure ship. Accompanying Mayor Fujita is a group of athletes who took part in the gruelling half-marathon event at Lake Macquarie on the weekend. Future sporting links will feature high on the Mayor's agenda. As well as talking to coal industry leaders, he'll be asked to help promote the region as an Olympic training venue.
One thing we've got is proximity to Sydney and climate. They want the purpose of this is acclimatisation.
While Mayor Fujita will consider the Hunter's potential, his first impressions of Newcastle have been positive.
大変綺麗な街で、それから今朝またホエールの泳いでるのを遠くから見ることができまして、大変ハッピーだったと思っています。
He thinks it's a beautiful.
25-year-old Mark Gorman is charged with 3 offences, including child abuse and maliciously inflicting grievous bodily harm. His 20-year-old de facto wife, Belinda Armstrong, is charged with being an accessory. In documents tendered in Wallsend Court, it's alleged Gorman ran a bath for an 18-month-old child to teach her a lesson after she'd soiled her nappies. He claims the lighting in the bathroom was poor and the tap was mistakenly turned to hot. He later heard the child screaming and returned to find she had burns to her lower body, legs, arms and stomach. The child was admitted to hospital in a near-death state 5 hours after the scalding occurred. The prosecution requested bail be refused for Gorman, claiming he'd threatened hospital staff and had shown a tendency towards violence. However, Magistrate Jeff Brown set conditional bail after counsel for the pair indicated that threats had been made against their safety and that Gorman was concerned for his de facto wife should he be kept in custody. Tendered in court was a recent medical report on the child's condition. It says her injuries are consistent with a dunking in extremely hot water. It goes on to say, the child is by no means out of the woods. She is at severe risk of succumbing to overwhelming infection over the next months until she has a full layer of skin over her burns. The report says 10 or more skin grafting operations will be needed, with the child expected to remain at Sydney's Camperdown Children's Hospital for at least another 3 to 4 months. Armstrong and Gorman will appear in court again in August. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
This is where Hunter Valley Cinemas wants to develop the $1 million theatre, restaurant and games complex in Cessnock. It would occupy 2/3 of the old Venture store, while an unnamed national fashion retailer is interested in the rest of the site. The cinema concept was welcomed by residents, in particular teenagers who have limited entertainment alternatives. However, the progress appears to have faltered. The lease signed between Hunter Valley Cinemas and the building's owner, Michael Genovakis, on June 16th was expected to be exchanged 4 days later, on the condition it was approved by the mortgagor, the State Bank. The bank told the developers and Cessnock City Council it would reply by Wednesday last week. That deadline was extended to Friday and then Monday this week, but still no word.
I tend to think the bank may be talking to another retailer who it may prefer to come into this site.
The reason?
I would assume the bank feels that one retailer taking the whole site is more preferable to a cinema taking 2/3. I think we're talking about a decision based on money, as banks tend to do, and not based on what the people of Cessnock want.
The State Bank said it couldn't comment on the situation without authorisation from its customer, Mr Genovakis. Today, Mr Genovakis said there was some sort of a hold-up, but he didn't know why. Mrs Callaghan says council supports a large retailer coming to the town, but wants it in a different location. For now, the Mayor says she'll continue to push for a decision from the State Bank. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
Rugby league is a simple game, with the bigger, more professional and better skilled team usually winning. Unfortunately for Central Charlestown, that's meant 30 straight losses, the team's last win being the first game of 1993 against Cessnock. Opposition teams treat them with a blend of contempt and fear, trying to register as big a win as possible without risking an embarrassing loss. But there is no threat of that against Souths, the visitors winning by 74 points. It's now a standing joke that the central scoreboard attendant is the most overworked and underpaid official in the game.
What's the worst loss you've had?
It'll be to the Maggots, West, 96-0 I think it was. So,
how does that feel walking off a field 96-0?
Well, they didn't get to 100.
The baby-faced captain of the team is 18-year-old Guy Clegg, in charge of players who are barely older than himself and have little experience in the top grade.
There's still a lot of spirit here, so we just keep plugging away.
It's the lowest ebb for Central in its 84-year history, a club that has won 6 premierships and has boasted players like the Little Master Clive Churchill and the Knights captain Mark Sargent. It's another training session for Central Charlestown. Realistically, the club won't win a game this weekend, but still the players turn up to show their dedication to the Butcher Boys. While the players keep turning up each week, the club has a future. Its finances are now sound, new players are being approached, and a win is always only a game away. And when the win does come, you'll be able to hear the celebrations from Maitland to Myuna.
We've come through the hard part of clearing our debt, which was pretty massive, and I think it's going to come really good.
If we don't laugh, we'll cry.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
"82-year-old Helen Malonis is lucky. Last night she escaped when her bedding caught fire after it brushed against a potbelly stove. She's also lucky because help was close at hand.
She didn't know what was going on. She was just really shocked and scared and frightened, quite in shock. There was smoke everywhere. I couldn't see anything, my arm, and all I could see was the back room. The whole room was engulfed in flames, going from the bed.
Helen Malonis lives with her daughter and granddaughter, but there are thousands of aged people who live lonely and isolated lives. Ambulance officers report dozens of cases of elderly people in distress. Some go undiscovered for days. For others, help comes too late.
In our job we do some good things and we see some happy things and we see some very, very sad things, and one of these are the elderly living alone. It does concern us a lot.
A phone call, a visit, if they're not working, if they're not busy, one simple visit, just 5 minutes, even half an hour to say hello, how are you, that gives them a lot of energy, courage. They know that someone is there thinking of them. Even a neighbour, an old aged neighbour, it's very important. They should, get in touch with those old people.
The ambulance service suggests that the life and death stakes can also be reduced through the support of volunteer and community care groups who conduct daily phone checks for the housebound. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
The fully clothed body of 6-year-old Chantel Miles was found buried in a shallow grave in the backyard of Brett Lobley's family home in Mayfield last May. Lobley appeared in Newcastle local court today, charged with Chantel's murder. On the day she was killed, Chantel had been playing with Lobley's sister. Lobley told police Chantel came into his room, which is at the back of a garage in his parents' yard. I said to her, "What are you doing in here? Why don't you get out?" She said, "No, I don't want to." Lobley says he got really angry. He put his hands around her throat and strangled her. When she was dead, he says, "I got up and I thought to myself, what have I done to her? I didn't know what to do, so I took her out to the garden and dug a hole and buried her." After Chantel was reported missing, Lobley took part in the search for her. Later that night, her body was discovered and he was charged with murder. Brett Lobley sat quietly in the dock during the short proceedings. When Magistrate Reimer asked him if there was anything he wanted to say, he replied no.
Lobley will stand trial in Newcastle Supreme Court on a date to be fixed. Jane Anderson, NBN News. Richard Gibson has suffered with back pain for the last 14 years. He doesn't know what caused it, and no treatment has been able to cure him.
Most of the time it's just very low level pain. It's just an ache in my back and some sharp pains every now and then.
However, there is new hope for people like Richard. A team of researchers from Newcastle University and Sydney University have made a world breakthrough. They've discovered that some forms of severe pain are caused by bacteria. The unit has done a study which showed that a common bug, a form of Staphylococcus, releases a toxin into the body which causes pain. People have a wide range of symptoms, including pain in their neck, jaw and back.
In all of those people who answered our questionnaire and said, yes, we have got one of these pain symptoms, they all had this bacterial toxin.
Instead of using a painkiller, preliminary trials have shown that when the correct antibiotic is given to a patient, the pain immediately disappears. However, because the bug is common in society, it's easy to be reinfected.
We are looking to get commercial backing for this, hopefully in Australia, so that we can develop a new range of pain medicines.
Professor Roberts says a certain diet and nutrient supplements may also block the effect of the toxin. Jane Anderson, NBN News.